Okay, viewers, welcome back to the world of lost AWOL women. I'm going to run you through this up until where we finished off in the first part, and then we'll go from there.
Y'all are not going to believe this. I want to tell you about a first date that I had with a guy a couple of months ago, a coffee date, and then I'm going to tell you what happened on the date last night. A couple of months ago on a dating app, I met a guy, we talked.
Let me just say, guys, the dating apps, it's going to be a miracle if you meet anybody that's really dealt with themselves the way that they should, grow in character and be possibly the best version of themselves. You can already see that this woman's got a lot of pride going on, and she has some masculinity happening as well. It seems to me like she's taking a lot of this for granted, but let's go on.
Conversation was reasonable, nothing to get it all worked up and excited about.
Well, I'd like to know what sort of conversation you need to have to get a woman like this worked up and jumping out of her skin about. What sort of topics would that be?
Invited me out. He couldn't quite make up his mind. Dinner, lunch.
Okay, women don't like men that can't make up their mind. They like to be led. They like to follow along, and they'll follow along if you've got the confidence to convince them that you're going somewhere that's going to entertain them. You have to leave an impression.
He was like, let's this, that, and it went on for a couple of days of that sort of back and forth, trying to sort it out. And like, this can't be that big of a damn decision, pick up.
Well, she's right in a way, and you just need to learn from that. You need to be specific.
Place a day. But anyway, we finally settled on a coffee date. We went, and the coffee date was going to be inside the bookstore. So I got there. It's a little tiny space too, and I got there first on the coffee date. So instead of me standing there looking crazy, I went ahead and ordered my own coffee. And
okay, so she's gone on a coffee date. I said this in the last one, and she's just taken it upon herself to not wait for the guy, but have a coffee. Now, it's irrelevant where he was or what he was doing. Why didn't she wait, have the courtesy to wait for this guy to turn up and then have a coffee? They could have met, and she might not have liked him, and they might not have started with a coffee. There's people that meet and just go, nah, sorry, you catfished me or whatever. But she couldn't have cared less whether he was there or not. She's just gone ahead and bought a bloody coffee. To me, I'd be offended. I'd be offended by that. Like, couldn't he have waited?
As soon as I paid for my coffee, he popped up behind me.
Now, so as soon as she paid for her coffee, he's popped up. He's popped up behind her as if it was deliberate.
And introduced himself. I said, great. And he got he already had a cold drink, a tea or something in a cup with a straw from the coffee shop. So he had been there obviously before me. I just assumed that he wandered over there by the books, that sort of thing, and was looking at things, waiting for me to arrive. And I didn't think anything of me paying for my own coffee.
Now take note of that. She said, I didn't think anything of me paying for my own coffee. So I think in hindsight what she's saying is she didn't think that this guy possibly could have been a cheapskate. But I watched this with my partner, and we found out what she means. You'll see in the next part what ends up happening. It's quite interesting. There's a few different ways you can look at it. But later, she believes this guy to be a cheapskate, deliberate cheapskate. So what she's essentially saying here is he's seen her come in, he's seen her get her own coffee, and then decided to come up and say hello, which is pretty damning sort of thing to think, but I'll let you make your own conclusions.
Because of the circumstances, because I made the assumption that he was over there in the bookstore wandering around with his glass of tea or whatever, soda, whatever it was he had in that cup, and that he just didn't see me come in, and as soon as he saw me at the counter, he did come right over there to me, but by then I'd already paid for my coffee. I didn't think anything of it. Okay, I didn't think anything of it, because I'm not a
So she was probably under the impression that he didn't initially recognize her, and then all of a sudden after she paid for the coffee, he has realized she was there. That's the impression that she had.
Particular about, a coffee date, who pays, that sort of thing. If we had both walked up to that counter together and he stepped aside for me to pay for my own, I would have noticed that. But in this case, because of those circumstances, I did not pay close attention. It was not a big deal. Should have been, because let me tell you what happened. Now, I haven't heard.
So what she's saying is you need to be aware of these little things, because because I think what she's suggesting is he knew she was there, but he didn't make his approach until after she bought the coffee. Now, whether she's right or wrong, we possibly will never know, but what she's about to talk about soon suggests that he knew when she came in, but waited till after she bought the coffee.
This guy, I have heard from him a couple of texts over the past 2 months, but no steady communication, anything like that. And then the first of the week, I did hear from him, and he invited me out, and here's how the date
So
went.
this is funny, they go out on a date. She doesn't hear from him for months, except here and there. Would you waste your time with that sort of stuff? If somebody was just popping up randomly here and there, I'd just ghost them. I'd delete their number. But this is how the carousel works. Right, you're riding a one horse 1 minute, and then you're on the next one the next, and then you're falling off into the dust, and then you're back on again. There's no sanity in how this woman's living. It's not the traditional conservative way. It's just bouncing to and fro, getting tossed to and fro from one person to the next, like it just doesn't matter. But if you listen to this story, there's a lot of things that do matter, and a lot of ways in which these people waste their time.
Back to why the paying for the coffee is important. Y'all are not going to believe this. Okay, I don't want to hear none of y'all complaining about a bad day, because
this is
I
the
win
same guy, right?
Okay, here's what happened. So the first of the week, I heard from several guys that I hadn't heard from in a while.
Okay, so she's heard. So this is interesting, because this is where they give themselves away on their morality and their integrity. Well, it's the first of the week, and haven't heard from several guys, and then all of a sudden they pop up. Well, what are you doing, mussing around with 7 guys? Look, guys, would you tolerate a Sheila that had that you were trying to see that had several guys on the side?
And
But she's got no conscience about it. As a matter of fact, you can see her ego's all over it.
last night with one of them who I have been out on a coffee date with.
Okay, so this is the same guy that she went out on the coffee date with. She just said it was the guy that she went out on the coffee date with. Tammy? She just said it was the guy. So the guy that she sits in the truck with was the guy that she went out on the coffee date with.
And he was really busy with his job and all that kind of stuff. And we did have a fair and decent conversation during the coffee date, but it's been 2 months. And I've gotten a text every once in a while from him, but not any real communication. And he didn't ask
Just let me remind you, she's getting texts from, you wouldn't know how many people. That's why these women get big, they start to big note themselves. But you don't see behind the scenes when they're crying and hurt and broken hearted because they've been pumped and dumped or used and abused. But for some strange reason, they just, see, it becomes addictive. All the lusts and temptations and deceitfulnesses, and they just pay the price for it.
Me out again, and I didn't really make an effort pursue him in any way either. So.
And you've got to realise this. See, she's just said I didn't make an effort to pursue him. Well, why would you waste your time, guys? Like, wake up, some of you people. If somebody's not making an effort, isn't that telling you something? It's telling you that they're not interested. If somebody's interested, they're going to be there. It's as simple as that.
It just, not good or bad, just kind of neutral, nah. And, well, so we went out. He invited me to go to dinner. So
let me put it to you this way, guys. This woman is an opportunist. That's all she is. What else are opportunists? Great white sharks, they're an opportunist. If you get in the way of one of those, you're going to get eaten. Now, she said she didn't want to make any great big effort. It didn't matter either way. But now there's an opportunity. But don't forget, she's got who knows how many other blokes that she's taken opportunity of as well. Open your eyes.
We met at the restaurant, and he had texted me and said, wait for me at the door if you get there before me. And I said, okay. So I did get there about 3 minutes before him. The girl had asked me how many in your party. I said 2, but I'm going to wait for my friend. I don't want to be seated just yet, because he'd asked me, right? So that's fine. So, and I'm going to wait for him right there at the entrance. So he gets there, and we kind of, oh, hi, and he kind of half shoulder hugs, good.
The half shoulder hug, that's just right from the bat. It's more or less when you see somebody and you're not real keen, they're going to give you the half shoulder hug. I've had to teach my children, don't do that. It's just offensive. It's horrible. But yeah, the half shoulder hug meeting, all right. So again, straight off the bat, there's something not gelling.
To see you again, looking forward to talking with you and catching up. Not great. The girl says, how many? The 2? And I say, yeah. And he interrupts and says, no, we got an order already waiting for us. It's a to-go order. So she says, oh, what's the last name? She goes and gets it. And she says, it's already been paid, right? Because he obviously paid over the phone, I guess. And he's got those. I don't know what we're doing. I don't know. I mean, maybe we're taking something back to his grandpa. I don't know what the hell we're doing.
See how undermining that is? So they've gotten the takeaway food, and she's thinking that they might be taking it back to his grandpa. They might be taking the food back to the grandpa or the mother-in-law or something. See how offensive that is? She's got no. No. And you know what she's saying? She's saying that's not good enough for me. That's what she's saying, guys. That's just not good enough for me. All right.
And so we step outside, and I said, what are we doing? And he said, come here, I want to show you my new truck. So we walk over to his new truck, and he tells me all about it. This, that, it's got this, that, and a good deal he got on it, and how much it cost, and all that. I said, great. And he said, it's got 4-wheel drive. And I said, fabulous, a big 4-door truck. Fabulous. Okay. So I'm still thinking, what the hell?
So she don't give a shit about his truck, basically. Oh, it all sounds good. She's just going along with it. She don't care about his truck. She don't care about the food. She's looking for grandpa. We're going to drop this off at grandpa in the new truck, right? No, this ain't but at this point, she should be walking away, right? But she's not. She's hanging in there. And this is what a lot of you guys do. You meet people, you know it's not right. And you hang in there, and you should be walking away. She should have just walked away, right? Let's see what happens.
With these boxes of food, right? He says, come here. He says, you'll like this. And he opens the passenger door. He says, get in. So I'm thinking, well, maybe we're going somewhere. Maybe he's planned a romantic picnic or something. I don't know. I'm still thinking positive. And I get in the passenger seat, and he starts telling me more about all the buttons and the gadgets and the screen and the this and that in the truck. And then he says, they probably didn't give us any. He said, so get right there in the glove box. So I opened the big glove box.
Now, the glove box could have had a gun in it, for all she knew, right? But she got off light. It had knives and forks in it.
And there is a whole pile of like to-go forks and spoons that are in the little plastic wrappers with the napkin. And I look at him and I said, what are we doing? He said, Oh, and by now on the big console in the front of the truck, he's got the 2 boxes out and he's ripped the plastic bag off and he's handed me one. I said, "What are we doing?" He says, "Well," he said, "I thought we could sit right here." He said, "Listen to the radio and talk."
And that's not a bad idea. Like, it's nice when you sit in the car and you have something to eat and you're talking away. Would you agree? Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. But this ain't good enough for her, guys. Oh no, this ain't good enough for me.
I said, "They have a music inside too, in the overhead speaker."
Okay, so she's not going to be led. She's not going to go along with this plan. We ain't sitting in the truck. This ain't part of what she's had in mind. So now it's all going to fall to pieces.
Is there a reason what are we going somewhere? And I'm not making sense because I'm having trouble getting a whole sentence.
No, she just didn't like it. She just didn't like the plan. She wasn't going to go along with it. She didn't like it. It didn't suit her. She wanted to sit inside. The truck wasn't good enough.
Are we going? They have music. I mean, just all these thoughts in my head like, make this make sense. And so he says, "No," he says, "I just thought maybe you'd like to see my new truck." I've seen an effing truck before.
Right, so she wasn't interested in him. She wasn't interested in his truck. And she definitely wasn't interested in the food. So why is she still there? Why is she still there?
He picked me up in the and I said, "Well, it's a very nice truck." I said, "Do you want to eat here?" And he got us 2 wraps, the sandwich wraps, the chicken
Got him 2 wraps.
And he said, "I told him to put extra ranch in there. Most people like ranch with theirs." I said, "You want us to eat dinner here in your truck?" "Yeah." He said, "I like eating in here." He said, "Because I got the big console here." I said,
Okay, so this basically, guys, she ain't going to go along with this. It doesn't suit her. It's not what she expected. She's not impressed. You know what? I wouldn't care if she, at this point personally, if I was getting this vibration, I wouldn't care if she went. Because she's not going to be flexible, she's not going to be adaptive. She's obviously got certain things that she wants and that's it, and he's not the right person for her, so that's it. Go find someone that's going to prop you up in whatever.
So I didn't bite at any of this sandwich at all, right? I'm just looking at him, and he's still talking about his truck. And I just thought...
Okay, basically what she's saying is the wrap may as well have been dog food. Whether it had ranch sauce on it or not, because she wasn't going to eat it. She wasn't happy with the way that he's gone and what he's done. She's just not a happy person at this point.
What in the hell? So
and you know what's interesting? She complained about buying her own coffee, which she did herself. Nobody asked her to in that at the very start of all this. And then she goes, "That's a warning sign of some kind about a person," which in some points it could be. But hang on a minute, guys. He paid for the wraps and he got ranch sauce. You might not like ranch sauce. You might like Diane sauce or some other sauce. But she hasn't mentioned that she didn't have to pay for the wraps. Right?
After watching him eat, like he was totally oblivious that I'm sitting there going, "What?"
Yeah, well, he must have been undiscerning. He must have been overconfident, because if I got any vibration like that, I would have just asked her to get out and I'll eat your wrap. And my missus can account for that, because anything she doesn't eat, I eat. I would have just said, "Look, you're not the sort of person, you're not adventurous enough, you're not flexible enough, you've got certain standards that I can't reach. There's the door, go, thanks for coming." She ain't sitting there going, "Well, he paid for the wraps and he's put us in the new truck and he tried to do something different." She's not doing any of that. She's belittling the guy and saying, "This just ain't good enough. This guy's nuts." Right?
And I finally spoke up and I said, "Did you invite me out to eat in your truck?" He said, "Well, you make it sound like it's not fun." I said, because it's not.
Well, it's not fun. Okay, so at that point, she does what she did and she had to go. I mean, apparently she's got all these options. And she sounds pretty ungrateful to me, guys.
And he said, well, I said, he said, well, you don't eat and drive or eat in your car?
It's not about eating and driving. It was a date. It's about sitting and talking, like you said at the start. Let's get to know one another. Here, have a wrap, chew on that, and let's talk. No, not good enough. Not good enough for this person. And so she's completely going to belittle the man, right? And this is going to help the women that are at this same vibration feel justified for the people that they've belittled as well. This is part of that feministic masculinity crossover where they just destroy everything that they've got. That's probably why she's sitting on it there all on her own with time to do this. If she had all these guys orbiting around her, where does she get the time to sit on here and whinge about men like that? He put her in a new truck. He was trying to, you know, associate her with part of his life, but it just wasn't good enough.
I said, no, I don't actually. I said, I barely drink, an iced tea or something when I'm driving. I'm not.
But that's irrelevant. It's not about whether you eat or not in a truck. It's about whether you want to get to know this person or not in a different environment. And she just was not going to do it. I mean, could you imagine trying to live with this person? No.
Eating a burger on the go all the time? No. I'm not.
Okay, so if you don't eat burgers on the go all the time, why can't you just sit in the fucking truck and eat the wrap and we'll get to know each other and go from there? She didn't even want to do that, guys, because it didn't suit her the way that he set it up. Can you see what I'm saying? She's making out the guy was mad. He wasn't. I've done that stacks of times. We sit and eat stuff in the truck. Me and the missus now. The ute or whatever it is, we couldn't care less. And to be honest, the missus I've got, she wouldn't care if somebody sat her in the truck and said, let's go. You know, this woman's, no way, man. That's why she's on her own.
Accustomed to eating in my car. I said, why didn't you want to sit inside? He said, those servers and waitresses in there, they always expect like $10.
No. She's undermining the man. He didn't want to sit inside because he wanted to sit her in the truck. He wanted to be in the environment of the truck. Nah, not good enough for this bird, guys.
I folded that little box shut, clipped a little front of it, and I sat it there. I said, I wouldn't want you to, suffer any hardships financially because you took me out to eat. I said, so here, you said this one. I haven't touched.
Completely twisted the whole spirit behind the story. And that's why this woman will never get on with anyone over a long period of time. Because she's broken. She's ungrateful, she's unadventurous, she's got a standard that most people just aren't going to be able to reach, and it'll go higher and higher so nobody can attain it. She might have been in the restaurant and complained about the colour of the forks and the knives. You don't know. But there's definitely a problem here for this woman. She's got no adventurousness at all.
You can have that for lunch tomorrow. And he said, what? I opened the
No,
truck.
he wouldn't have said what. He would have been thinking, well, probably the best thing for you to do is go as well. I agree. Yeah. There's no excitement or anything. This woman's just a drag.
Door. I walked over to my car, I got my little purse, I got my key, I got in my car, and I drove off.
And that's what she'd be doing, and that's why she's ended up on her own, guys. No fun whatsoever. And she's probably got a lizard or a ferret, maybe a snake, or she might have a dog. I doubt she'd have a dog. She doesn't seem like a person that would have a dog. She might have several cats, some with no teeth that you got to hand feed, or I don't know. But she definitely couldn't appreciate what that guy was trying to do. That she definitely didn't want to get to know him because it didn't suit her. So as far as I'm concerned, she can sit on her own with a little bag in her own little car, drive home, just be what she is, which is, I don't even know. because she didn't come across as attractive to me whatsoever. So I'm going to wrap it up there, guys. Just don't waste your time with these people, and come on, just make sure you're the best version of yourself so that they can't put shit on you like this. I'm out, guys. I'm out.